Thank you for coming by for another Full Build Friday, where we will be exploring the world of Warframe by way of Pathfinder. I originally held off on this build before the release of Operation Aureus, but I think it's time to bow to the bearer of Warframe's most metal epithet, Garuda the Gore Queen.
This is Garuda, the Gore Queen.
Before we can hail to the Queen, we should figure out some build goals for her royal retinue. One of the eponymous Warframes, Garuda is a blood, gore, and sacrifice-themed frame, which are once human beings corrupted into unrecognizability and further enhanced with machinery. Her signature weapon is the Nagantaka, an automatic crossbow, though she passively possesses talons that she can use to eviscerate foes in melee. Furthermore, each kill she gains further increases her damage. When she activates her Dread Mirror ability, she leaps into the air before pouncing on a foe, damaging them and tearing away their life force to create a shield that flows in front of her. She can channel that shield to charge up an explosive projectile that she can then launch at foes. Upon activating her Blood Altar, she impales an enemy upon a spike. She continually siphons their life to provide healing to herself and allies within an area. Both of these eat up quite a bit of energy, so she has Bloodletting, which lets her sacrifice her own life to generate energy instead. That just leaves Seeking Talons as her ultimate. This can be charged up to cover a larger area, and upon being released, sends her talons careening about that zone, carving foes apart and leaving the survivors with extensive bleed damage. Putting all of that together, sacrifice is certainly a main theme of Garuda's design, though that sacrifice can come from herself or from her foes. A continual healing area effect will be important for her Blood Altar, and the ability to hurt herself to regain energy will be the equivalent of somehow regaining spells. We'll look into her wielding claws and crossbows, but letting her gain power with every kill would be appropriate if a little rough to approximate. Honestly, her abilities have a lot of moving parts, so some of them might take a bit of a combo to really pull off. But to start us off, we'll use a Fleshwarp ancestry, representing the mutation and corruption that the Warframe originally sustained to become what they are. This will be coupled with the technological heritage to represent the other aspect of her being, and we can follow all of that with the living weapon feat, to go ahead and get the claws that she is known for. As a Fleshwarp, Garuda gains an ability boost to Constitution, and takes a free boost to her Strength to facilitate her considerable combat capabilities. I struggled a little bit when determining her background, since they don't seem to give her much of one. I ultimately settled on Warrior, since that is what Warframes are. This provides her with training in Intimidation and Warfare lore, and also grants her the Intimidating Glare skill feat, which does work nicely since the frames are fairly quiet on their own. With the ability boost here, we'll increase her strength once again, but choose Charisma for her free boost, to help with some other aspects of her overall design. However, strength reigns supreme for this Sultana of Slaughter, who will use the Barbarian class. But not just any Barbarian class. We're taking up a class archetype for the bloodrager. This does mean that we're still a strength-based class, but we're going to be locked into the bloodrager dedication with our next level. Bloodragers don't get much in the way of extra damage from the rage, but that damage it does provide comes in the form of persistent bleed damage, which is pretty on point for this pincushion producing princess. After some debate on what class feat to take, I ended up with Sudden Charge. This allows Garuda to charge into battle to lay waste to her foes, taking some inspiration from the pounce of her Dread Mirror. When it comes to gear, although we do have claws, I want to use tri-bladed guitars to represent her talons, since they lack the agile trait and will thus work better with her rage. You can also give her a repeating crossbow of some flavor, but our build will end up focusing on these talons of hers. As a bloodrager, she will be trained in athletics and medicine, while taking her actual only 2 skill increases to acrobatics and stealth. It's not much, but it is something. Finishing off her ability boost for first level, we will enhance her strength, dexterity, constitution, and charisma. Strength will be important for attacks with her katars, and you'll want to up her charisma for the sake of the spells that she'll gain as a bloodrager. The rest of her physical stats will be useful for survivability, whether by increasing her health or armor class. As I said, we are required to take the bloodrager dedication at 2nd level, but I don't regret that. It lets her pick the arcane spell list to gain 2 cantrips from it, while also becoming trained in its related skill. For cantrips, I'd likely look at Gouging Claw and Slashing Gust, for the potential bleed damage that they can inflict. And then we do also get the Harvest Blood action to reduce the drain condition we get from casting spells. For something a bit more about her speed, which is big in Warframe, we have her quick jump skill feat. This is a particularly perfect pick for Warframe, where jumping is honestly the main mode of travel half the time as you bound across the battlefield. And on that very topic, 3rd level features Furious Footfalls to increase her speed, while an athletic skill increase will make her an expert of it. Fleet as her general feat further enhances her speed, and therefore the range of her jumps so that she can really race around. We're sticking with the bloodrager at 4th level for this fearsome Flayer Femme as we feature Rising Blood magic. We'll start getting some proper spells with this as well as some extra damage on our spells when we're drained. Now for the first rank, I like Flens as another means of inflicting bleed damage while also just fitting her theme of gore and gristle. Powerful Leap as her skill feat further extends the range of her jumps and gives her a great vertical, letting her jump 5 feet into the air without even trying. Starting with ability boost at 5th level, we'll go ahead and enhance our Duchess of Devastation's strength, dexterity, wisdom, and charisma. As a barbaric butcher, we bear brutality from her class features, and get a skill increase to become expert in Arcana. Then, while I do like the tri-bladed Katar as her talons, I also want to further explore the built-in concept of them through Mutate Weapon, which will allow us to make her talons deadlier, longer, and even more accurate. It's a nice little bundle, but that agile trait still makes them something we may not want to use while raging. 6th level sees us gain something I wasn't sure I would be able to do. But while Siphon Magic is super circumstantial, its ability to regain spells by increasing her drain value is a pretty perfect parallel for her bloodletting. We do follow that with Rapid Mantle, making it easier for her to get back up after being knocked over an edge, and also letting her use Athletics to do so rather than relying on Reflex. With another spell here, I'd probably go for Horrifying Blood Loss, but Blood Vendetta is decently on point, depending on which way you want to go. There's a bit going on at 7th level, and it starts with the Bloodrager Instinct Specialization and Weapon Specialization to increase our damage. There's also the Juggernaut to bolster our defenses. Athletics will be the first skill we get to master, and then we're going to go ahead and tap into Toughness to enhance the health of our Princess of Pain and Punishment. It's a pretty important thing to do when your main class feature is applying the drain condition to yourself. Our 8th level comes with another Bloodrager spell, but that's not quite enough for me. I still like Blazing Dive, I think it's a great way to kind of cover the Pounce of her Dread Mirror, but that's not enough to stop me from taking an Oracle Dedication. She'll obviously use the Battle Mystery and become trained in Religion and Thievery. Shield should serve as her cantrip, and she'll take that alongside Wall Jump, which is pretty much requisite on any build for a Warframe. It's a bit too perfect to pass up on, presuming you can get the Athletics there. The raging resistance of the Bloodrager is pretty potent at level 9, and reflex expertise is nice as well. We go a bit less physical with the skill increase as we take it to Arcana to become a master of it, and then I'm grabbing Gaping Flesh for her ancestry feat. Personally, I think this plays too well into her theme of blood and gore, even if it doesn't represent any of her abilities specifically. First things first, for level 10, our ability boost to our Baroness of Bloods and Butchery's Strength, Dexterity, Constitution, and Charisma. There's a few divine spells we need, so we will be taking a basic Oracle spellcasting, which provides us with Heal at 1st rank, and Death Knell at 2nd rank, which is honestly the big get here. This gives us a way to turn the Fallen into fuel for the function of her passive. Admittedly, it doesn't stack, but it is hard to get stacking effects in Pathfinder 2nd Edition. As to her skill feat, I'd look at Quick Climb. We've mainly been investing in Athletics and Arcana, but I don't think skill feats from the latter really suit the character. At least the Athletics feats I can conceptualize in-game. The 11th level of our esteemed Viscerating Eminence comes with Mighty Rage and a skill increase to make her an expert in Religion. With Garuda's habit of self-harm, I'd look at Robust Health for her general feat, making it easier for her allies to restore her health that she spends on beautifully butchering bad guys. We are back on Bloodrager with level 10 as we take Surging Blood Magic, which means more spell damage when we're drained and access to the Weapon Storm spell. While the area it makes is a little small, it serves to resemble her Seeking Talons, with the bleed effects coming from plenty of other places in her kit. Speaking of bleeding, we'll go ahead with Vasodilation as her skill feat, which lets her use blood and the sacrifice of her health to enhance the effects of healing or other treatment that she receives. For our lovely Lacerating Lady's lucky level 13, we've got Greater Juggernaut, Medium Armor Expertise, and Weapon Mastery to make use of, along with a skill increase that makes her a Master in Religion for the sake of her Oracle spellcasting. Keeping it simple, Deep Vision as her ancestry feat grants her Dark Vision, and while it's coming in a little late, it's still certainly useful. As promised, 14th level features Expert Oracle Spellcasting, which very importantly provides her with Healing Well as a 5th rank spell. At the same time, we get Impaling Spike as our 5th rank spell from the bloodrager, and this gives us her Blood Altar in 2 parts. Run a victim through with Impaling Spike, and then drop a Healing Well beneath them for your allies to heal from. Risky Surgery involves a sacrifice from Garuda's allies for enhanced healing. It kinda plays into the consistent themes of her kit, though since she doesn't get more than trained in medicine, maybe they will let somebody else do it. Level 15 features ability boost to Strength, Constitution, Intelligence, and Charisma. We'll become trained in Deception through that intelligence boost, while her actual skill increase means that she becomes a legend in Athletics. As a Barbarian, she further gains greater weapon specialization and Indomitable Will. We can actually find another blood-themed feat here with Sanguine Tenacity, letting her treat the Drain condition as lower than what it actually is, which is honestly especially fantastic for a build like this that regularly inflicts strain upon itself. In addition to our Callous Countess's Impaling Spike, we can use the Barbarian class to gain Impaling Thrust, letting her puncture and pin a perpetrator in place through her attacks alone. Cloud Jump will then give her some greater mobility, and after that we get a bit defensive with her spells, which features Wall of Force from the bloodrager or Blessed Boundary from the Oracle. Either one of these could quite capably serve as a shield from her Dreadmere. We're closing in on the end with level 17 as Garuda gains Perception Mastery, Revitalizing Rage, and a skill increase that will make her a legend in Arcana. I went for Gripping Limbs with her final Ancestry feat, in part because the Fleshwarp doesn't actually have a good 17th level Ancestry feat, so this is kind of just a fill-in-the-blank spot. Entering 18th level, Exalted Blood Magic finishes out our spell repertoire, and gives us an extra spell slot for each rank that we already have. On top of all that, it gives us extra damage that comes from being drained too. Now at this point, I'm running low on skill feats, but Water Sprint is still a pretty solid pickup, letting Garuda dash across streams and lakes to ensure that her enemies can't get away. For our final few class features, level 19 has Armor Mastery, Devastator, and a skill increase to make her a legend in Religion. Featherstep may seem a little tenuous, but what's good for the goose is good for the Garuda, and mobility matches Warframe in general. As our gory Garuda's final ability boost will increase her strength, dexterity, wisdom, and charisma. Rather than a capstone class feat, I think Vicious Evisceration might fit Garuda the best, letting her leave foes drained just like she does to herself. Divine Guidance will then take advantage of her legendary religion skill, and might fit the connection that Warframes have to greater forces, such as the Lotus. When it comes to playing this Carving Queen of Carnage, the bloodrager has some solid and mixed options. You are a martial more than you are a caster, but you can certainly make use of those spells against enemies that are susceptible to the saves that you're using. Groups of enemies in particular should probably be vulnerable to your spells, and you'll want to use them to debilitate foes in between your strikes. Horrifying Bloodlust is a solid third action for you, and even if you're casting an attack spell, a follow-up strike with a guitar will only be at -5 map, so that's something to consider as well. This is another one of those builds that would benefit greatly from a free archetype game. There's still solid feats from each of the archetypes we took, and you can likely fit in both. From the bloodrager, you can find Bespell Strikes for more damage, or Hematocritical to make her spells more likely to hit, while the Oracle has Mysterious Breath, and possibly Master Oracle Spellcasting. This can free up new Barbarian class feats for her, with special mention being given to Renewed Vigor, Swipe, and Sudden Leap, with the last one particularly representing the pounce of her Dreadmere. With that all said, our queen is crowned, but does she sit upon a throne of corpses, or lies? Let's review and find out. Garuda the Gore Queen is a technological Fleshwarp barbarian with a bloodrager's instinct and a warrior's background. While we can represent her Nagantaka as a heavy repeating crossbow, this particular build instead focuses on her innate talons. The Fleshwarp ancestry provides us with living and mutated weapon, but I have further equipped Garuda with tri-bladed katars for some more mechanical purposes, such as avoiding the damage reduction from our rage when it comes to wielding agile weapons. This rage damage might be a nice tie-in for the extra damage she gets on kills. However, we can get a bit more exact by using an Oracle Archetype to acquire Death Knell, a spell meant to harness the powers of a departing soul. With the basics established, I want to point out that representing some of these abilities will take multiple turns and effects to pull off. But when you have abilities as action-packed as Dreadmere, I think I deserve a little grace. To start, we'll want Sudden Charge, Blazing Dive, or Blink Charge for the pounce and initial damage of it. Then, you're going to cast Shield, Wall of Force, or maybe Blessed Boundary for the Protective Mirror. Finally, you can launch something like Fireball or a similar spell for its explosive projectile. As an added bonus, there's also the extra rage damage from being drained to possibly represent her charging up the spell. After that, we have Impaling Spike, or Impaling Thrust, to pin an enemy in place before we cast Healing Well beneath them, as a rough approximation of her Blood Altar. Fortunately, after that, things get a little bit easier. I was initially stymied by Bloodletting, until I realized that bloodrager has Siphon Magic, and while it's somewhat circumstantial, becoming drained to regain a spell slot is a perfect parallel for sacrificing health to regain energy. That just leaves her seeking Talons, and for this, we're looking at the likes of Weapon Storm to really capture the shape of its area, though I do think Slashing Gust could fit in as a more reusable option. Beyond that, there's always blood-related options to be found among her spells, with special mention going to Mutilate, Feral Shades, and Horrifying Blood Loss. Born for battle and bathed in blood, this butchering Baroness brutalizes baddies abounding with blades and bewitchment, bringing bane to even the most boisterous of brigands. Let me know what you think of the build and what other sorts of builds you'd like to see. If you dig what I've done, let me know with a like and a subscribe. I want to give a big thanks to the folks on the Patreon, with a special shout out going to the Orc Overlords, that being Decaffeinate, Shybinster, and Vorthis. You too could head on over there for early access to the vids and extra content. Either way, thanks for watching, and have a fantastic Friday.